On a distant planet called Zira, the sky glowed with two suns, casting a warm light over the landscape. However, this beauty masked the harsh reality of life for the aliens who lived there. The planet was ruled by a cruel empire that enslaved many species, forcing them to work in mines and factories. Among the slaves were four friends: Sabira, Tarek, Luma, and Zorak. Each had a unique story, but they shared one common dream: freedom. Sabira, a brave young alien with bright green skin and sharp, intelligent eyes, had always been a leader. She was determined to find a way out of their misery. Tarek, her best friend, was a skilled mechanic. He had the talent to fix almost anything, but his spirit was broken by the constant toil. Luma, a gentle healer with soft blue skin, cared deeply for her friends. She had watched many slaves suffer, and it hurt her heart. Zorak, the strongest of the group, had a fierce determination that often put him in trouble. Together they formed a bond that no chain could break. Every day they worked in the mines digging for precious minerals. The overseers, large alien creatures with menacing eyes, would whip anyone who fell behind. Sabira often whispered to her friends during breaks, "We cannot give up. One day we will be free." Her words filled them with hope, but as days turned into months, doubt began to creep in. One afternoon, as they worked under the hot suns, Tarek noticed something strange. "Did you see that?" he whispered, pointing to the sky. A small object was flying above them, moving swiftly. Sabira squinted, trying to get a better look. "It's probably just a drone," she said, trying to dismiss her own curiosity. But deep down, she felt a flicker of hope. What if it was a sign? What if someone was watching over them? Later that night, while they rested in their cramped quarters, Sabira spoke of her dreams. "Imagine a world where we are free," she said. "No more chains, no more fear. We can rebuild our lives." The others listened, their hearts swelling with the possibilities. Luma smiled softly. "I want to help others. We can create a safe place for all our kind." As they discussed their dreams, a loud noise suddenly filled the air. The ground shook, and the bright lights of the overseers' ships flooded their camp. Panic erupted among the slaves as the overseers shouted commands. "Back to work! You lazy creatures!" Their voices were harsh and unforgiving. Zorak clenched his fists. "I can't take this anymore." "We have to fight back!" Sabira placed a calming hand on his shoulder. "No, Zorak. We need a plan. Charging at them without thinking will only get us killed." The group fell silent, understanding the danger of their situation. Days passed, and the memory of the strange object from the sky lingered in Sabira's mind. She began to feel a sense of urgency. If they were going to escape, they needed to act fast. "Let's find a way to signal for help," she proposed one evening, gathering her friends. "If we can get someone's attention, maybe they will come for us." Tarek thought hard. "What if we use the materials from the mines? We could create a signal that will reach the sky." Luma nodded eagerly, her eyes shining with determination. "I can help with that. I have some knowledge of old technology from before the Empire took over." With newfound energy, the four friends began to plan. They worked quietly during their shifts, collecting scraps of metal and other useful materials. They knew they had to be careful, as the overseers were always watching. Then, one day, the skies darkened as a massive ship hovered above the mines. Its engines roared, drowning out the sound of the overseers' shouts. Sabira's heart raced. "This is it! This could be our chance!" she exclaimed. The ship was unlike anything they had ever seen, sleek and shiny, with symbols that made no sense to them. The overseers were confused, glancing up at the ship in disbelief. "What is that?" one of them shouted. The aliens below stood frozen, hope blossoming in their hearts. "Could this be the rescue we've been waiting for?" Sabira thought. The ship hovered silently, as if assessing the situation. Sabira felt a surge of hope. Maybe they were not alone in their fight. Perhaps the heartless humans were not so heartless after all. Inside the sleek human ship, Captain Jack stood at the command center, his eyes focused on the screen displaying live footage of the alien planet below. The scene was chaotic. Aliens were running in all directions as their overseers barked orders. Jack's heart sank as he watched the slaves, beaten and broken, yet still holding on to a flicker of hope. He had heard tales of the alien slaves, and now he saw their pain firsthand. "Captain, we have to make a decision," Lieutenant Mia said, her voice firm but filled with concern. She was a compassionate officer who had joined this mission to help those in need. If we don't act soon, they might be lost forever. Jax rubbed his chin thoughtfully. I know, Mia, but we have to be cautious. We don't know what kind of weapons the overseers have. They could turn on us in an instant. The tension in the air was thick as the crew awaited his orders. Jax understood the risks, but his heart told him they had to help. As he studied the footage, he noticed the leader of the slaves, a brave alien named Sabira, rallying her friends. Jax admired her courage. Look at her, he said, pointing to the screen. She's fighting for her people even when everything seems lost. Mia nodded, her expression serious. We need to find a way to communicate with her. Maybe she can guide us on how to approach this situation without putting anyone in danger. The crew quickly brainstormed ideas. They decided to send a small drone equipped with a message to the slaves. The drone would hover low, ensuring it wouldn't attract the overseer's attention. Jax and Mia worked together to craft a simple yet hopeful message. We are here to help. Stay strong! With the message ready, they launched the drone into the night sky. It glided silently toward the planet's surface, weaving through the chaos below. As it descended, the crew held their breath, hoping the slaves would see it. Meanwhile, Sabira and her friends had gathered in a hidden spot, trying to plan their next move. We need to send a signal for help, Sabira urged, her eyes scanning the area. But how? The overseers will never let us out in the open. Just then, Tarek spotted a small glimmer in the distance. Look, he shouted, pointing. What is that? The others turned to see a tiny drone hovering nearby, its lights flashing gently. Sabira's heart raced. Could it be a rescue? The drone hovered closer, and they could see it was carrying a message. Sabira approached it cautiously, her breath quickening. It's from humans, she exclaimed, reading the words aloud. They want to help us. Hope surged through the group. We have to find them, Luma said, her voice filled with excitement. This could be our chance. As they discussed how to reach the humans, a loud explosion interrupted their plans. The overseers had spotted the drone and were furious. Get that thing! It's a trick! They shouted, rushing toward the area where the drone had landed. Zorak clenched his fists, ready to fight. We can't let them take the drone. It's our only hope. But Sabira held him back. No, Zorak! We need to be smart about this. If we rush in, we could all get caught. The group quickly agreed to hide, using the rocks and shadows to their advantage. As the overseers searched frantically, Sabira whispered, We need to stay quiet and wait for the right moment. Meanwhile, back on the human ship, Jax and Mia monitored the situation closely. They could see the overseers closing in on the drone's location. We have to create a distraction, Jax said urgently. If we don't, those aliens will be captured. Mia nodded. I have an idea. We can use the ship's laser systems to create an artificial meteor shower above them. It will cause confusion and give the aliens a chance to escape. Jax grinned. Let's do it. Prepare to fire on my mark! As the crew worked quickly, the first shot rang out, creating a brilliant flash in the sky. The overseers paused, looking up in shock. The dazzling lights filled the night, and for a brief moment everything seemed to stop. Sabira and her friends took this chance to flee, moving quickly and quietly towards the ship. They felt a surge of adrenaline as they ran, believing that freedom was finally within reach. On the ship, Jax watched as the aliens darted toward safety. They're going for it, he shouted, filled with hope. Let's bring them home. In that moment, the lines between humans and aliens blurred, and the first steps towards a new alliance began. The heartless image of humans started to fade as compassion and courage took center stage. As the dazzling lights faded in the sky, Sabira and her friends raced towards the ship. Heart pounding with excitement and fear, Sabira felt a mixture of hope and uncertainty. They had finally made it. But what would happen next? Would the humans really help them? Or would they just be trading one kind of captivity for another? Keep moving! Zorak urged, his strong voice cutting through the chaos. The group dashed behind rocks, keeping low to avoid the overseer's watchful eyes. Just ahead, the ship's door opened slightly, revealing a warm light. It was their chance. Inside the ship, Captain Jax and Lieutenant Mia were anxiously awaiting the arrival of the alien friends. I hope they trust us, Mia said, her brow furrowed with concern. We need to show them we're here to help. We'll make it clear, Jax replied, determination in his eyes. We'll treat them as allies, not slaves. This is a new beginning for everyone. Outside, Sabira took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. We have to go in together, she said, glancing at her friends. If we separate, we could get lost or caught. Are you ready? Tarek nodded, a determined look on his face. Let's do this! Luma, always the gentle voice of reason, squeezed Sabira's hand. We can trust them, she whispered. Zorak grinned, ready to fight if needed. With a shared sense of purpose, they dashed towards the ship. As they stepped inside, the bright light engulfed them. The air felt different, cleaner, fresher. For a moment they hesitated, unsure of what to do next. Jack stepped forward, a welcoming smile on his face. Welcome aboard. We're here to help you. Sabira's eyes widened, studying the humans closely. Jax was tall and strong, wearing a uniform that spoke of authority and respect. You really want to help us? She asked, her voice steady but filled with disbelief. Absolutely, Mia chimed in, stepping beside Jax. We've seen what your people are going through and we can't stand by any longer. We want to fight with you, not against you. The four friends exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of hope and uncertainty. What's your plan? Tarek asked, eager to understand their intentions. We need to get you off this planet and to safety, Jax explained. But first, we have to deal with the overseers. They won't let you go easily. He motioned for them to sit. We've gathered information about their operations. If we work together, we can strike when they least expect it. Luma listened carefully. What do you need us to do? She asked, ready to contribute. Jax smiled, appreciating her eagerness. We need your help to distract the overseers while we take control of their main base. Tarek, you mentioned you're a mechanic, right? We could use your skills to sabotage their equipment. Sabira, you're a natural leader. You can guide your people to join us in the fight. Sabira felt a surge of confidence at Jax's words. We can do this, she declared, determination flooding her veins. But we need to be careful. The overseers will fight back, and we can't lose anyone else. Mia nodded, understanding the weight of Sabira's words. We'll provide cover from the ship. Our technology can disable their weapons, but we need you to get in close. As the plan unfolded, excitement filled the room. They spent the next few hours strategizing, drawing maps, and discussing tactics. Sabira's eyes sparkled with a newfound sense of purpose as she outlined their escape routes and potential hiding spots. Finally, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow over the planet, they felt ready. Jax gathered everyone together, his voice steady and inspiring. This is our chance to change everything. We fight for freedom today, not just for you, but for every enslaved being on this planet. We can't let fear hold us back! With hearts pounding and spirits high, Sabira and her friends joined the humans, ready to fight for their freedom. They were no longer just slaves, they were allies united by a common goal. Together, they would confront the overseers, and this time, they would not back down. As the ship prepared for takeoff, Sabira looked around at her friends and the humans who had come to their aid. Hope blossomed in her chest. They were about to make history, and she was determined to ensure that this was just the beginning of a brighter future for all. The ship hummed quietly as it prepared for launch, and the atmosphere inside was electric with anticipation. Sabira felt her heart race. Today would decide their future. She exchanged glances with her friends, their eyes filled with determination. Jax, Mia, and the rest of the crew stood ready, equipped with advanced technology that made Sabira both excited and nervous. All right, everyone, listen up. Captain Jax's voice rang out, pulling everyone's attention. We launch in 10 minutes. Here's the plan. Sabira, Tarek, and Luma will lead a team of your people to create a distraction near the Overseer's base. While you keep them busy, we'll disable their security systems from the ship. Mia leaned forward, adding, The drones will help cover your movements. Just remember, if things go wrong, we'll be right above you to provide backup. Tarek nodded, feeling a sense of pride as he thought about using his mechanical skills. I'll handle their equipment. Once we get in close, I'll disable their communication system so they can't call for help. Good, Sabira said, feeling the weight of leadership on her shoulders. We have to be quick and smart. If we can lure them away from the main entrance, we can strike. As the ship lifted off the ground, the view of the planet below took Sabira's breath away. It was beautiful but scarred by the overseer's cruelty. She felt a surge of anger and hope. They would not let this go on any longer. Prepare for launch! Jax called, and the crew hustled to their stations. The ship rose higher, and soon they were hovering above the overseer's base, a sprawling complex surrounded by towering walls and guard towers. Now or never, Mia whispered as they positioned the ship for the approach. Sabira gathered her team, ready to jump into action. Stay focused. We're fighting for our freedom today. She could feel the fire in her belly as they exited the ship, hearts racing with adrenaline. They landed quietly on the outskirts of the base, hidden behind a cluster of rocks. The Overseer's guards patrolled nearby, their eyes scanning the area. Sabira held her breath, signaling for everyone to stay low. Tarek took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his tools. "I'm ready. Just point me in the right direction," he whispered. Determination etched on his face. "Let's split into two groups," Sabira decided. "Zorak, you take the right flank with Luma. Tarek and I will go left. We'll create as much noise as possible to draw the guards away from the entrance." As they moved into position, Sabira felt a mixture of fear and excitement. They had trained for this moment, but now that it was here, everything felt different. She was fighting not just for her freedom, but for the freedom of her people. Suddenly, a loud bang erupted from the other side of the base. "That's our distraction!" Tarek exclaimed. Sabira nodded, her heart racing as they moved closer to the guards. They reached the entrance, and Sabira could see the chaos unfolding as the Overseers rushed to deal with the noise. "Now, Tarek!" she shouted. Tarek quickly got to work, using his tools to disable the security systems. The alarms blared, but they were already moving inside. "They're going to know we're here!" Zorak warned, watching the guards scramble. "Not if we move fast," Sabira replied. "We need to find the control room and shut everything down." As they made their way deeper into the base, they faced challenges. The Overseers were everywhere, and the team had to use stealth to avoid being seen. They slipped through corridors and hid in shadows, adrenaline pumping through their veins. Finally, they reached a heavy door marked Control Room. Tarek set to work again, his hands flying over the equipment. "Just a moment," he urged as the sounds of approaching guards echoed down the hall. Sabira looked at her friends, fear evident in her eyes. "We have to hold them off," she said. "If Tarek can get this door open, we can turn off their communication systems and give ourselves a chance to escape." "Let them come," Zorak declared, gripping his makeshift weapon. Luma nodded, her face set with determination. They could feel the fear, but it only made them braver. As the door creaked open, Tarek shouted, "I got it!" Sabira rushed inside, her heart racing. The room was filled with blinking lights and screens. She quickly moved to the main console. With a few swift commands, the entire security system went down, leaving the Overseers in chaos. "We did it!" she shouted, relief washing over her. "Now let's get out of here!" But the sound of footsteps grew louder outside the door. They had to act fast. "Everyone out!" Sabira commanded, and they sprinted back the way they came, the thrill of victory fueling their escape as they prepared for the final fight for freedom. The alarms blared throughout the Overseer's base, echoing off the walls and adding to the chaos. Sabira and her friends raced down the corridors, adrenaline pumping through their veins. "We have to reach the ship," she shouted, her heart pounding in rhythm with their footsteps. "We're almost there!" Behind them, the sound of rushing guards grew louder. Zorak turned, his jaw set with determination. "I'll hold them off! You guys get to the ship!" "No way!" Sabira replied, fierce determination in her voice. "We stick together. We've come too far to lose anyone now." They sprinted through the hallways, weaving through the chaos. Overhead, the flashing red lights illuminated their faces, casting eerie shadows as they dashed past rooms filled with equipment and Overseers in disarray. "We need to find another way out," Tarek urged, glancing back nervously. "They'll corner us soon," Mia's voice crackled through their communication devices. "We're ready for extraction. Just get to the landing pad." "We're almost there," Sabira shouted, her resolve unshaken. The idea of freedom fueled her every step. Suddenly, a group of Overseers appeared ahead, blocking the path. Their imposing figures loomed large, weapons drawn and ready. "Stop!" one of them yelled, a sneer twisting his face. "Now what?" Luma whispered, fear creeping into her voice. "We fight," Zorak said, stepping forward. "We're not backing down." "Wait!" Tarek exclaimed, his mind racing. "We can't just charge in. We need a plan." Sabira took a deep breath, her mind working quickly. "Zorak, Luma, create a distraction. Tarek and I will find a way around them. We have to reach the ship." Nodding, Zorak and Luma moved to the side, ready to create a diversion. Zorak yelled at the Overseers, waving his arms. "Hey, over here!" As the guards turned their attention to Zorak, Sabira and Tarek slipped through a side door, moving as quietly as they could. "Good job," Tarek said, glancing back at the scene. "Let's hurry!" They hurried through narrow hallways, their feet barely making a sound. Sabira felt a rush of hope. "We're going to make it," she whispered, believing every word. They rounded a corner and spotted the landing pad outside. It was bustling with activity as the humans readied the ship for takeoff. "There it is," Sabira pointed, her heart swelling with hope. "We just have to get to it." But just as they approached the exit, a loud crash echoed through the hall. The overseers had realized Zorak and Luma's trick and were coming their way. "Hurry!" Sabira urged. They burst out of the building and the bright light of day hit them. But the sight that met them was terrifying. A large group of overseers was gathering, weapons raised and ready to fire. "Get to the ship!" Tarek shouted, pushing Sabira forward. Just then, Jax and Mia appeared on the ship's ramp, weapons drawn. "Cover us!" Jax yelled, taking aim at the approaching guards. Sabira felt a rush of gratitude. "Together!" she shouted, rallying her friends. They charged forward as the first shots rang out, ducking and weaving to avoid the bullets. The overseers fired, but their shots went wide as Sabira and her team dodged behind crates and debris. "We can't let them take us back!" Luma yelled, her eyes blazing with determination. As they pushed through the chaos, Sabira glanced back at Zorak and Luma, who were holding off a group of guards. "We can't leave them!" she shouted, torn between fleeing to safety and helping her friends. But Tarek grabbed her arm, his voice firm. "We have to trust them!" "They'll be all right. Now!" Jack shouted, signaling for everyone to retreat toward the ship. "We need to go now!" Sabira's heart raced as she watched Zorak and Luma fight bravely against the overseers. In that moment, she understood what true unity meant. It was not just about survival, but standing together against oppression. With one final glance, she sprinted toward the ship, knowing they had to make it out together. "For freedom!" Sabira shouted, her voice echoing as they reached the ship. The humans and aliens scrambled aboard as the ship's doors slid shut. Jax activated the engines and the ship lifted off the ground. Sabira looked out the window, her heart swelling with pride and relief as they soared into the sky, leaving the overseers behind. As they climbed higher, cheers erupted inside the ship. "We did it!" Mia exclaimed, her voice filled with joy. "We're free!" Sabira turned to her friends, her heart full. "We did this together. We fought for our freedom and we won." Zorak smiled, a rare light in his eyes. "This is just the beginning. We can fight for others now." With a newfound sense of purpose, Sabira nodded. They were no longer slaves. They were a united force against oppression. Together, they would continue the fight for freedom, not just for themselves, but for all those still trapped under the overseer's cruel rule. They had learned the power of unity, and that would be their greatest weapon.